Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to 22 panels and the Joy, Resistance, Hope, and Survival Book Club and Support Group. Joining us are Dr. Edgar Ramos, Samantha Chavez, and Lee Woods from Psychocomicology. Phil has popped in tonight. I don't know if we'll have other people pop in too. Tonight, we're going with Dr. Ramos' choice. He decided to have us reread Mark Millar and Rafael Albuquerque's Huck. So take it away, Dr. Ramos. You got to talk first.
Well, I guess I'll talk first. So I chose Huck because I'm a huge independent comic reader. I moved away from the superhero genre. The older I get, just I'm more specific on who I read now. Um, but it was funny because this one caught my eye because it is a superhero book, but it wasn't your normal superhero book, you know. It didn't have
Minus the spandex.
yeah, it didn't have the complexity of, and I say that word and choose that word carefully, the complexity of a hero. While he's complex, he's very much reduced to just the simplicity of being good, just being a good person. And it's like, isn't that what a hero is? It's just being a good person. And that blew my mind. It was just like, whoa, he just likes to do good. He doesn't need the recognition. He's not out there disguise. Like he's just being a good guy, like moralistically, just all around good. And I'm trying not to give away too much yet. That
He's
just
good.
Yeah, that just blew my mind.
Hey, Dr. Ramos,
Good.
is he good?
Good. He's okay. Um, I'll get to that point in a second. Yeah, and it's been a long time since I read a book that just gave me an overall warm, fuzzy feeling. And that's actually what I got from reading it. I had a very warm, fuzzy feeling like that, so much so that I had to have my son read it, who's about 20 years old. I invited him to this. I don't know if he's able to join. But I had him read it and he loved it. Like he was just like, he was reading at the time, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing.
Ooh.
Okay.
And he was like, I needed a break. He's like, I needed something that I could just read and not have to sit and analyze and stop at every other sentence and think about and ponder what the depth behind of that. And I just wanted, and yeah, that was the beauty of this book. It was that I could just enjoy it, read it, feel good about it. And it was, yeah. So that was my point for recommending it. I felt it was very pertinent to our topic today, our discussion today. That's my intro.
Sounds good.
And did I mention
So,
overall good character, just good?
Just good.
Did I mention it?
I mean, I think it came up, but it should be said again. He's good.
He's very good.
He's he's a good guy. He's a very good guy. Has anybody here seen The Boat That Rocked? Or I guess in the United States it was called Pirate Radio.
I
No.
think I
I
think I
have not.
I think
Oh,
I saw a good. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Did it
it's a
have
fantastic movie.
yeah.
Older
Um,
older movie?
but
How far?
It was 20 early 2010s, late
something like
2000s.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Richard Curtis movie.
Okay,
Um,
so
but
modern.
I love there's the scene where they're playing like celebrities and th Thick Kevin, who thinks he's not that thick, comes up and he's like, he's a good guy, a really good guy. He's a good guy. Likes to walk.
He's a good guy.
Walks everywhere. Walks everywhere. Wore sandals. Good guy. Had some friends. And finally, somebody it goes, "Is it Jesus?" Yes. Why did you just say "Son of God"?
'Cause it's setting the tone. That's why I'm like, all right, do I say everything now or just, and it's funny 'cause that's when you meet someone, isn't that one of the first things you say about them? Like, oh, they're a good guy. They're a good guy.
Good guy.
Yeah, like that's so I'm setting the tone like, yeah, he's just a good guy. Like I want to meet him. I want to talk to him and just hang out. No?
Have you read All-Star Superman?
Ed.
Uh,
Yeah, because that's my ultimate like, you know, or one of my ultimate like warm fuzzy good feeling books, even though it's got a little bit more complexity to it than this one does. But But yeah, it's
So I will say, like, my one ding on this is I almost wish it was less complex.
All-Star Superman or Huck?
I almost wish that they just gave us like one and done issues that were just sweet
mm,
and doing good guy stuff rather than having the the
yeah, the
ugly
secret, the
world
Russian.
conspiracy whatever going
Yeah,
underneath it.
The pseudo
That's just
Captain
me.
America story.
I could agree to that actually, because I think that was. I mean, it's one of those where it's hard to disagree with Huck being a good guy and those sort
Right.
of good things. I mean, there was a part of it early on where I was like, this, felt a little short-sighted, and then he starts looking outward towards the rest of the world, and I'm like, all right, I'll give you that, sort of thing. And I do like the sort of small touches of him finding lost things. I think that's like an interesting concept, and it's also an interesting look at Superman, even,
Yeah.
um, where it was very clearly like, oh, hey, here's another Superman without calling him Superman or even giving him a cape sort of story.
And same concept. This Midwestern,
Mhm.
small town kind of
Right.
concept, which I thought was beautiful. Um, when you talk about whether, you wish it was one and done, I mean, it did take what, 10, 15 years for the other one to come.
Well, yeah, no,
Oh
I meant
yeah,
I went I would completely be happy with hundreds of issues. I wish they were all one shots
Gotcha.
and not always like one of them could literally be, oh, I'm gonna help you invite your girlfriend to prom. And then the next one he could save the planet. And then the next one he could find a lost cat, find a way to make all of this stuff interesting. But like I think you could have a lot of fun if it was just him doing his good deed every day.
So this is where why I limited what I was going to say about he's just a good guy. Like it's just very simple, basic. Is that when you guys spoke of like, it's just the one and done and keeping it simple, would we have still enjoyed it if it didn't evolve?
I would have.
See, and that's
I
where
mean,
I'm like,
I
no.
think you could have evolved him without having to have the sinister type. You could probably even find ways to bring the family in or bring the other stuff in without having it be. I mean, I feel like in parts of it, both in the first volume and I read the first three volumes of this three issues of the second volume today.
hmm
I feel like there are times where the deeper global conspiracy theory is kind of taking the front. And I don't like it as much when that does that. I don't really mind it being in the background, but when it comes to the foreground, it doesn't feel like that's when the comic feels a little out of balance to me.
I
Uh,
I I would agree with that. Like with it being like a Russian, like the mom was like held captive. Like I think the story would have still been good, like if he would have found someone who knew his mom, because it does seem like he was always searching for like that instance of family. Like even though
right.
he had community, but like he was still looking for that connection to his self. Um, I think him going like on an adventure to find like his mom would have still been like a good story to give him that deeper development into like his personal identity. So I don't know if she needed to be like a Russian captive
Super.
or soldier experiment. Like I don't know
Yeah,
if that needed to happen.
And
it
he didn't have to have his brother wind up being really a
an
Russian
evil
robot.
robot. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, and this is where so real quick, and I understand this is me sort of bringing things from outside the narrative to it, but like one of the things that I couldn't get out of my head was one, um, most of what I associate Rafael Albuquerque's art with is the American Vampire series. So it's one of those where even when characters were nice and smiling, like that's the thing is there's still something a little bit unsettling about Huck to me. Like it's one of those where some of the looks in his eyes, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about him. I'm like, is there a darkness lurking in there? Like
Mm.
it's and it's one of those where I think that, and similarly, it's one of those where I'm generally not that much of a fan of Mark Millar. I especially, for me, the sort of Russian secrecy, all of those plot elements just remind me of like a lot of the cruelty in his work, and it almost makes it to where it's hard for me to trust the joy, because there is joy in this book, and there's moments that it wants you to feel that heartwarming rush of him being a good guy, and there being lots to like, but it's, and like I said, there's still just like a little twinge for me that I can't let go of.
And see, and that's to the point I'm trying to make is that we almost, whether we do it consciously or not, is that we call for more complexity.
Hmm.
Can't just accept sometimes just the simplicity, and I don't mean accept it. I think our minds. So comics have evolved. I mean, I think we can agree to that. That comics have evolved from the golden age to, atomic age, blah blah blah. And I
Hmm.
think because we've seen that evolution, some of us have lived through a different eras of comics and just the complexity we've seen, that we almost expect more without necessarily saying we expect more. We just, the depths of our minds goes deeper and deeper, that we see these characters having more complexity to them, even when they're trying to be presented in the simplistic format. And I think that
Hmm.
that's what had me going with it, because it basically to me was just raised the question, it raised the idea of like, well, so then can a superhero exist without trauma?
Oh, that's interesting.
Like,
Yeah.
and he did for a little while, but then
Yeah.
just like, like, yeah, let's
Well,
start
but
creating.
did he?
I mean, it's it
There's a certain amount of trauma to being that different, quote unquote, slow,
well, and
whatever.
being abandoned by your parents.
Mhm.
Right.
So that,
I
but
don't know that it was without trauma. He just had different trauma than we
yeah,
often.
Well, we also have to be careful how we distinguish trauma. Like you can be raised, you can be adopted, and just because you got different family doesn't mean you have trauma. Like I'm talking
yeah.
clinical trauma, like where
Mm.
like you're symptomatic. You have,
Right.
Okay.
But
That's a good
but
distinction there.
where I was going is I got the impression that and maybe I was just reading too much into it, but
Okay.
as kind of the slow um not considered as bright or thoughtful in the solicits to Huck 2, they call him autistic, but he's never called autistic anywhere in the comic itself.
Hmm.
Um, but you generally go through a childhood that involves a lot of people telling you what you should do or how you should be, and he definitely has a great parental set that has allowed him to just be him. And eventually it seems that the town also does that. But I wonder how much of the being good comes out of um an earlier childhood where he doesn't have that strict, it's like, well, if I do one good thing a day, then I'm proving that like I have a purpose.
I'm worthy. Well,
Right.
that's what I mean by they evolved him into like you're right. Like I'm like, wait, he's autistic now? Like now it's
Well,
fun.
and again, only in the solicit,
Yes.
Hmm.
No, like and it's funny because Phil, when you said
which
that
I have some
trauma,
thoughts on, because I would love for him to be autistic. I mean, I think that he
I
has enough
could
traits that it wouldn't be a hard, but I'm a little irked by the fact that he's autistic in the solicit, but not
Mm.
explicitly anywhere else.
so to going to back to Phil's point about the art, I
Hmm.
agree with the art because and maybe I'm giving them more credit than what they deserve, and I don't know. I almost feel like it was intentional that,
Mm.
because I know what you mean. Like you'd look at him and it's like, huh, like, there is this eeriness to it. The whole thing, it's not even just Huck, it's all around. There's this eeriness, like you're always waiting for something.
Yeah.
Is the feel that I got too. So I have to think that there was an intentionality to like, yeah, there's a that and there's that deeper, more like there's more waiting, there's more to come with this guy, and I think that that was intentional. Like, 'cause
Mm,
why would you pick this guy to write this thing about bare goodness and just all around good guy, and then you pick the
hmm.
guy that was drawing American Vampire to
Yeah.
like I'm like of all the people, like so there has to be. I think that there was something behind there. Whether they got to fulfill it and do it fully, I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
there's something there. I definitely agree with you on that part, that there was an eeriness to it.
The one that
Well,
also I'm looking at it now. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as someone that's not really too familiar with Mark Millar's work, I can't really comment on that. But like for me, it definitely was sort of reminiscent of Steel, right? As someone that grew up from rural South Carolina, like it was, it felt very authentic to have like this community of like, yeah, like we want to do our own thing. We want it to be kept private. We don't want more attention drawn to us. Like, so to me, it really did sort of fit with that sort of upbringing environment. Maybe I'm struggling with the word good, but for me, I what was brought up for me with Huck was that it seemed like his intention was pure, much like a child's intention would be pure. It was like, you need help finding your parent? Cool, I got you. I can do that. Oh, you need help like saving your cat or fixing your necklace? Very pure in that way, where which it seemed like maybe that was the environment or what have you, but
Well,
I don't know. That's the sort of that's what I got.
well, wasn't that
No, I think that's
wasn't
a good distinction.
and Ted? I think we had this discussion. I don't know when we've talked a few times. Didn't you bring something that point up about how Superman's earlier tales were very simple? Who he fought, what uh, dealing with. I think. Don't quote me on this. Were you talking about one of his early issues was him dealing with a woman getting abused by her husband?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, well, it was specifically in the context of everybody thinking that the new Superman movie is woke. Action
Mm,
Comics #1.
yeah. Oh, Action Comics back in the day were very politically minded.
Yeah.
Well,
It
no,
it
well,
was
or at least woke,
yes.
because he splits up a domestic violence thing. The car that he's throwing is literally a couple of fat cats who thought that because they were rich they could practically own a woman, and he wasn't down with that. And he goes after an arms dealer and a corrupt senator. That's like Action Comics 1 and 2 right there.
Yeah.
And he was, if I remember, Superman was pulling cats out of trees.
Yep, doing
Yeah.
that too. But
Yep,
but it
like,
but again, it was like the stuff that, like, I'm sorry. As soon as you start trying to come up with a reason why it's okay to beat your wife, or a reason why it's okay to lobby to go to war to sell more guns, um, you've lost the thread. I mean, this is where you get to the pureness as well as just the good. There are times where good is murky, and there are times where it just really isn't.
Hmm.
That the young woman should give herself up to the rich man, uh, uh, being like a given. That's not one that, like, you shouldn't go. No, that's bad. I mean, if the young woman likes the rich man, fine. But once he has asked and she has said no, you're done.
I need at least two no's before I stop.
Okay, but
Um,
but you're not gonna follow in your car and run her off the road because she
no,
said no to you,
I
and
like
she's not allowed to say no to you.
I've been
And that
rejected.
was what Superman was responding to.
So then, what made what? So what is a superhero then?
Uh, I mean, it's I think all superheroes are on one level defined by their moral code. And it's not going to be the same for everybody. Generally it involves no killing, but it doesn't even always do so then. But like that they have a clear idea of what they think is good in the world and what they think that they can do to bring about that good or encourage that good. And perhaps more than anything, what really defines a superhero is what ends they're willing to use to justify the means. What makes them super is the things that they're not willing to do, at least to me. Those lines that they're not willing to cross is sometimes the most dramatic stories. I love Spencer Ackerman's current or recent run on Iron Man, and one of the reasons I loved is it put Tony in this impossible situation where like he was constantly at that point of what am I willing to do to stop a world dominated by doom.
So if moral code dictates it, morality, and depending on theoretically how you define morality, if you're looking like at Kohlberg's, idea of morality, it has different stages and different levels. There's different depths, with the ultimate, it's like do you arrest the old woman that's stealing food, to save her, to feed her kids, or the man, how about
Absolutely. I
about
mean,
like
I'm
John?
not absolutely arrest her, but absolutely that's
Damn,
what I'm
I'm like,
talking
that was
about in
quick,
terms.
Ted
man.
said, lock her
The
up.
the
Yeah.
interesting thing is that if that's the moral code I'm thinking of, I think that the what's considered the top level of that would say to lock her up,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
which is even back in high school learning about that, I rejected. I'm like, no, this is messed up. I disagree, you know.
Like,
Um,
like morality.
No, I mean this is
Hey,
one of the great powers of King's letter from Birmingham jail is he talks about should you follow an unjust law? Absolutely not. But he
mhm,
also says that you shouldn't try to avoid punishment for not following an unjust law. That
mm,
you are more powerful by being imprisoned or being punished or being put on trial for not following an unjust law than you are if you skirt that unjust law and then try to just get away with it. It's like if it's an unjust law, then no, you shouldn't follow it. But if you're punished for it, then you take that punishment and you fight the punishment, and in so doing, fight the law.
see, now we're going deeper into the idea of morality and understanding it. And I'm trying to keep it back with Huck is that, well, morality in its sense is that whose moral code? Because
Yeah,
yeah,
everyone has different moral code, and how we perceive it, understand it, whatever is different. What was good to me is that he had like stage one moral code, like, avoid punishment, simple reward,
mhm,
very simplistic, like this is right and that's it. It didn't really have that complexity of like, those issues of like, do I steal medicine to save my wife? It didn't have those fights yet. But I think, and I'm sticking to the idea is that it would start getting boring if that's all we saw. It's just this simplistic, like, hey, cat's in the tree. The right thing to do is get it out, as opposed to the cat just killed somebody. What do we do with this? Like, I think we get bored with it. So I think it was good to kind of like, oh wow, he's a cute character. But now we're seeing the evolution of it. And I think for me, that's what I like about it, is that it kind of, maybe it's the nostalgia in me. It was kind of like my evolution of reading comics. Like as a kid, like they were just so innocent, cheesy, not really. I mean, there were some good ones back then, but they weren't always in depth. Obviously there, you had your few in there like Neil Gaiman and them at that time. And then they started getting much more in depth, much more savvier with the things that are going on, much more in your face, I should say, because they were
mhm.
underhandedly political, not too much in
Right.
your face political. And then for a kid, you couldn't really understand all those underlies until
Well,
later.
And
yeah.
going in that direction, another comic that comes to mind that is like, hey, here's just a good guy that does engage the more complex morality is the Matt Fraction David Aja Hawkeye run,
Ah,
where
Oh yeah.
yeah, where it handles that, you know, like you said, the stage one, the low stakes morality of, hey, who can I help right now? Moving a couch in a hurricane, you know, that issue it is great low stakes stuff. And then it gets to, hey, this building is in the way of gentrification and ultimately like urban shift sort of issues that tackle those systemic things that honestly I think Huck would struggle to engage with, not just as a character, but also as a series. You know, it's one of those where Millar does have a simplistic view of morality and villainy, quite frankly, where, you know, he almost seems like the kind of guy who's, oh, good guy do good things, bad guy do bad things, you know. And
Looking at Huck, like what's the ultimate bad guy besides like a Russian
hmm,
you know, like
yeah,
it is such like a polar opposite. Like Huck is like like the good
Midwestern,
guy.
good old
Like
boy.
he's the good guy, and then what's the most villainous bad guy we can think of? Like, oh, the Russians. Like
hmm.
so it is that like, you know, the extremes. It's an
I think a
extreme.
politician personally, but yeah, Russians, yeah,
The,
it could be bad too.
yeah, like the classic like James Bond like villain is a Russian. Like a
Hmm.
in a cave
Why
somewhere.
is he got to be in a
They're always in
cave?
cave
Yeah.
on science stuff. Like
Uh, there was
And
definitely
he had a
some
goatee.
then he had
yeah.
a goatee. Like it's always that is like that is the bad guy. That is the villain. So like I think it's almost spot on to say like, you know, yes, like could the story have gone on without it being that crazy? Yes, but like now in this discussion as we're discussing it, like if Huck is like the most simply good and the most simple morale, then
Hmm.
a Russian bad guy working on science in a cave with a goatee is the ultimate bad. Like
It's an interesting it because it is a little when there's one scene where there was more focusing on his bald head than his evil goatee that I was like, oh yeah, he's kind of like a Russian Luther um going on there. So yeah, so that is, I mean, and even from that angle, if you contrast absolute goodness is this simple-minded person who knows goodness when he sees it and does it without thinking, which includes donating to some kind of political party. We're not sure which one, but some kind of political party getting a
Right.
donation. That's a good thing. Um, and
Well, it actually seems like it was the one that like had used him to bad aims, and he like felt bad that it had turned on them.
yeah.
So it's almost a useless donation, but a hilarious one.
Hmm.
So, Ozzy, I see you join. That's my son.
Hi,
Hey,
everyone.
Ozzy.
So,
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you. So what were your thoughts on Huck? Your
That
assignment from Dad, was it like homework?
it may have started like homework, but it quickly it got me good. It was probably like top three books I've ever read. I loved it. It was such a feel good story. That's how it was described to me at first, and that was the best way to describe it. I thought it was a really good book. Kind of just like the concept of like, sorry, I'm trying to think of the words here, like true heroism. It kind of shows like it doesn't take like, all these flashy powers or anything like that to be a hero. It's just you just got to do it yourself.
I do agree with that. I liked the sort of low description intuition base of his powers where, you know, there was no like mythology behind how he got them. It's just, oh, you know, that's just what he can do and there's slight limitations to it, just enough to really make that part of it compelling.
I would agree with that. Yeah, it was very not focused on that. It was much more focused on his good deeds.
yeah. Well, and the fact that like his good deeds were on a list that he checks off. And it's like if I feel good about anything, it's checking things off a list.
That's a fair point too.
Dating with that, where it was like, oh, he also checks things off a list, and like I bet that makes him feel really good, like accomplishing his goals.
So, was that the autistic trait?
Maybe. I don't know. That was something.
Hey,
It felt good though.
Yeah,
I can agree to that.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. Yeah, I haven't had the chance to read the second one because I'd rather read it all in one solid run. And I
Right.
had, but I'm intrigued to see how far it deviated from the first one, like how much more change. And I think Tad, I don't know, Phil, if you read it, but how the second series starts to change.
I
I mean,
haven't read that yet.
it's an I mean, a lot of it's gonna depend
Spoiler.
on the next couple of issues.
Mm.
There's one character that could go either way, and if he does the thing that he did with the brother again, I'm gonna be a little upset. Um, but if that's more of a head fake, then not as much. And that's something we'll probably find out in the fourth issue. So I'll come back to that.
Is it worth the read as the first one?
So far, it's been worth the read.
Okay.
It's been worth the read. I didn't feel like I wasted my time.
Yeah, it's the first one definitely is. And we'll
Mhm.
see. So the positives, what did I say? What was the favorite or best part of reading that? The part that made you think, wow, I like this.
Uh, oh, okay. So I know the part that like where Huck captured my heart. I'll say it was the very last 2 pages. It was the part where the uh I guess spoilers if you haven't read it, for those listening, but if
We're all here.
yeah, no, right. The news reporter
Hi,
that
Mom.
Millar the news reporter that basically got the publicity to Huck, how after he found out that she was a shut-in and she was going to move, how he just went and bought flowers for her and
Yeah.
took them straight to her. That captured my heart
Mm.
right there. That even though you may have went against the grain, broken a promise, maybe for all intents and purposes did something wrong, like you're still okay. You're still a person. And like that's the message I took away
Well,
and made it.
and of course Huck would forgive her.
Of
Yeah.
course you would.
You know, that's that I yeah,
For me, I
Yeah.
think the
that definitely.
the most heartwarming scene is probably him feeding the alley cats at the fancy gala. Yeah. It's one of those where I am definitely a sucker for anyone who feeds stray cats.
There
I
you
agree with
go.
that one.
That was also nice.
I I enjoyed the well, first of all, I resignated him when he's checking things off a list because I check things off a list. How important that can be and how good it feels to like accomplish that. And so seeing, a quote unquote superhero checking things off a list. And it's not only things that like he's trying to get done, but it's things that he's getting done for other people, like not just himself. Um, that really stuck out to me because my lists are things that I need to accomplish for me to get myself and things done. His lists are things that he's doing for others. And he has his daily list, and these are the things I'm going to do to make other people's lives better. I thought that was a really good aspect of him.
I think for me it wasn't a one scene. It was the moments when he would rush back to his room and
Mm,
not take like the accolades and all that. Like just he did it and like that really resonated with me and that made me like fall in love with the character. Like, wow, he really doesn't care about all this stuff. I mean, it resonated and that's how I play my role. Like, I don't want to do all these dinners. I don't want to go meet all and schmooze and all this. I just want to help people and that's it. Like come home and play with my kids. Like that's what I want to do. Like no, he didn't play with his kids when he got home, but he would feed the cats and like he just wanted to go home at the end of the day, at the end
yeah.
of these moments and be him. And that's it. Not deal with all the other stuff. And when the report, like he didn't want none of that and that publicity and all that. Like that's what I thought made him human to me. Like he became much more human, and like I'm like, wow, this is like a regular guy that doesn't want the limelight. He doesn't want any accolade, doesn't want any of that. He just wants to go back home and then go to his next part on the list and keep doing there. I think that's how I kind of really resonated with this character, and I think that's what made it feel good for me is his overall. Did I say good? That he was good.
You might have mentioned that once or twice.
Yeah,
How good is he?
you know, his overall goodness of just like, let me just do it and come back, come home. That's
Yeah,
it.
go play with his toys because I think that was the panel.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like it was such a like simple, like, and I love that. I thought that was, that was really good. I forgot what I was reading next to it before I what was I reading? I don't remember. I think I was reading Nailbiter,
Okay.
Ooh.
which probably is the
It's
reason
quite
why.
the shift, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like maybe that's why that was like, oh wow, this is nice, but yeah,
That's like the night when I watched Lars von Trier's Antichrist. I had to stay up and watch a rom-com just to feel better afterwards. I wouldn't be able to sleep.
yeah, that's you kind of have to balance it, like you can't just
Yeah.
be inside it. Like there's a healthy balance. Like I'm always reading two or three at the same time, so I have that balance, or else it is like this either negative or I get lost in my own thoughts and in my head. But then I don't want to just joke and laugh all either. It's like I have to have that balance, and yeah, it helped fulfill that.
That's, I think, one of my favorite things about being a regular with comics and having, because I feel like I've been undiagnosed ADHD for years now. And so when I was a kid, I used to read 3 or 4 books at a time to balance my attention span. And eventually I started reading all comics all the time because I could get through them fast enough to keep up with the attention span. And having that combination of going from genre to story in like a pile every week was just such a great feeling.
I used to tell people the same thing. I'm like, look, I could read like four different books, so they're 10, 15 minutes. I could literally go to the bathroom, have one, come out and do another one. Like, and it kept up with my pace, my head. Like it was
Yeah.
so much easier to read. Uh, yeah, it's interesting. And the ADHD thing, hey, we can talk afterwards if you need any. I got you. Are you in Chicago?
No, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee.
Ooh, I love Nashville. Well, you know what? It gives me a reason to go down there.
There you go.
We do love Tennessee.
Really do.
Yeah, I love Tennessee. Yeah. I love their barbecue.
Yeah, there's a lot of good places out
Good
there.
chicken too.
Yeah.
What is that? Gus's?
Yeah.
No, is that Memphis or Nashville?
That is in Memphis.
Memphis. I forget.
So it's starting to sound like I might get to come visit you just because like they come down.
Oh, there you go.
Well, what? We'll make it a big trip. We'll all get in the same car and just go head down there.
There you go. The second ill-advised comic shop tour.
That I,
Hey,
I'm all in favor of another ill-advised comic shop tour.
I'm still looking for a
I
team.
enjoyed my ill-advised comic shop tour.
We got to hit Mile High. That's still my mecca.
Oh, I've been to Mile High. You would
I
like Mile High.
I gotta check. I might not buy anything, but I definitely want to go.
Oh no, you would wind up buying things.
Where is that one?
Oh God, that's Denver. It's
Oh,
literally a warehouse.
wow.
yeah,
Is it
literally.
And like not a small warehouse.
It's not the biggest comic shop in America, is it? Or is
I mean, I think it would depend on how you were measuring in terms of the space that you can get to, probably not. In terms of the space that staff can get to go grab something for you, I think it would be hard for it not to be.
Gotcha.
I mean, I think it's bigger than Artist Alley at C2E2.
Wow. That's pretty big.
Mhm.
Hmm. Put it on.
I mean, it's literally a warehouse and like not a small one.
So
Oh, and look at that. my buddy Britt Payne is stopping in, so we got one more to say hello.
Hello.
See them up.
Oh,
There we go.
Britt, I'm so happy that we're
Oh
still
my
going long enough
goodness.
for you to come say hello.
I am startled and pleased. Congratulations
Yeah.
on your longevity.
Well, I mean, it happens sometimes. I mean, you and
Uh,
I have gone for like 3 hours. Didn't we do 3 hours once? I don't remember.
I hope we broke that one into two. Just got back with the kids. They are eating their dinner. I'm waiting for my dinner, and I'm curious to find out what you guys are chit-chatting about.
Well, I mean, the big resounding thing, Edgar, I'm gonna give it to you. What is Huck?
The word that comes to mind is he's just an all-around good guy.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think that's the way he's presented and the way he's drawn. If I could just like dig in because I have a whole thesis about it that may or may not be right.
Yes,
So
we'll take a
I'm glad
thesis.
I'm glad to have my tires kicked. So I don't know how much Tad mentioned, but I've spoken a lot about autism in comics, and I have a particular opinion about the importance of explicitly autistic characters in kids' pop culture. So I was really heartened when I saw that there was this new miniseries that I'd never heard anything about called Huck. That it was called actually Huck, the Big World or Big Bad World or something like that.
Right.
That the solicit said an autistic character does blah blah blah. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I've never even heard of this thing. I didn't, and this is a sequel miniseries, so I was surprised to learn. Well, it turned out that the original series didn't say the word autism or spectrum or anything like that. I think they used slow and they used a couple of slurs and
Right.
but there was never any specific diagnosis or anything of Huck and Huck's condition. And then suddenly this solicit for the new miniseries did. They said they said autistic. And so far we're 3 issues in, I believe, maybe four, but
And still
I
haven't said it.
has not said the word autistic. And if I'm being, I recognize that autism can present in a million different ways, and I'm certainly open-minded about that. And you meet one autistic person, you met one autistic person is a truism that I think is a truism for a reason. So it is not crazy to think that Huck's particular simplicity, which is how they present it in the book, is an expression of his autism. I think that's rational. I just don't think it's what happened. I don't think that the first miniseries or the second one is trying to show, what if Superman were autistic and this particular flavor of autistic. I think they're doing something else. And it makes me wonder who wrote the promotional copy. Was it somebody who knew that they'd get my personal attention and get my $12?
It's usually either editors or marketing people. It is rarely the author of the same book, unless it's super
Except an
independent.
Image.
Yeah, I was just about to say at Image. A lot of times the writers do write their own solicitations because they're the ones that the story comes from. So, but yeah, that would be an interesting guess because I absolutely agree with you. It's in my opinion quite cowardly to just try to brand someone as autistic without saying that they're autistic in narrative.
I guess. I mean, but if you're saying that it's two different, I have a particular angle that I do want to leverage any
Mhm.
power that anybody has into compelling people to call characters autistic, which then in turn compels them to do a good job of it, or else they're going to be very embarrassed, which then, compels readers to be exposed to autistic characters, which then compels them to understand autistic people in their lives a little bit better. So I don't mind that some sneaky, copywriter
Where
for
did the
the
word sneaky come
publisher
from?
Russians,
wants
it was the
to.
Russians. Just kidding.
It was an unsolicited comment.
um,
So,
because then maybe it embarrasses them into doing a good job and actually making him explicitly autistic, and then feeling compelled to get an autism consultant to make it more authentically autistic character in the book, and between the artist and the writer. But I honestly, I just don't think that's what's happening. But what would be
Yeah.
cool is if
I
it
was about to
stuck.
say, I think Mark Millar is the wrong creator to try to embarrass
Bum,
into
bum,
doing
bum.
anything.
Yeah.
but I think
I don't know. People evolve.
for me,
Not him.
That's possible.
Not him.
where I get hung up as, and then right now I'm putting my psychologist hat on, is that it's like that you can look at any character and like, yeah, I mean, it is arguable, like what truly is autism, and our diagnosis for it is at best, mediocre, to be quite honest. And I'm not trying to throw all of my career into the floor there, but our testing it's we have a long way to go. Let's just say that. Uh, and it's changing in how we see and understand autism. But that's where I get passionate about, and that's where I get sometimes. I think the word that comes to my mind, I'm just going to do a feeling word, is offended. Is that when you have writers presenting characters like, because it to them that's what they think it is, and then you have readers sometimes, or kids, some misunderstanding what it is, and that's what it's about. If we're going to educate, if we're going to use it to educate the public, then we have to educate the public. So I don't know if I'd say cowardly. I like the word cowardly. Is that, yeah, like it does have that sense of like, are you throwing that word out to get more people to read and buy that comic book, or to kind of go backwards and go like, oh, he does have features, let's make him autistic now. Like there is that, like, well, what was the purpose and the intent for that? Was it a real purpose, like to show like, hey, there are characters and heroes that have these features or characteristics, or was it a marketing ploy or marketing scheme to like get people to say like, oh, like, I think about Poison Ivy, who now I think they've explicitly stated is autistic, who before wasn't, now is.
To be honest, I don't think it's in the books. The writer, I believe, has said it.
What
Oh,
statement?
Because I believe I saw the writer interviewed at Comic-Con recently, but I don't think it's in the book. I could be wrong, but it's the kind of thing that I keep an eye out for. I think, though, that the writer might have said, kind of like Ryan North with Fantastic Four, the right and Jeremy Adams writing Fair Play for the Flash book, that they are saying that they are writing the characters as autistic, but that the word autism or spectrum has not appeared in the comics.
Grant Morrison did explicitly make
Grant Morrison and Jay
Mr.
Lee
Fantastic.
did that. Well, he said
Right.
it. He didn't directly say it. He implied it. He had it was Roberto Aguirre Sacasa who did it explicitly. Where so in 2002 with Jay Lee, and I think it was called Fantastic Four 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
They had Grant Morrison had Sue say, "Hey, Reed, have you looked at all into Asperger's syndrome? It's this thing I heard about." And but it was not it was not explicitly stated as a diagnosis. And then 10 or so years later, Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, if I could botch his name any worse, I probably would. He then said that had Reed saying dialogue that said, excuse me, I'm going to grab some ice. The only way I can be on this call is if I do it during dinner.
Absolutely.
Reed self-diagnosed himself with Asperger's syndrome, for which he's developed a mild case of autism. That's right, for which he is developing a cure. So people in the autism community recognize that that's not our most favorable way that folks who are autistic like to see those things depicted. Nonetheless, it is evidence that there is canon to suggest that Reed can be autistic, and specifically with Ryan North writing him now, having said, I am writing Reed as autistic. It's out there, but Dr. Ramos, I don't know if Tad told you my profession, but it is my professional instinct to be contrarian at times, or at least like to kick around that idea.
He's an entertainment lawyer.
So I am not as personally offended by ill-informed portrayals of autism and with jumping on the autism bandwagon. My wife has celiac, and if a lot of people for trendy reasons want to be gluten-free, it means that there are a lot of more products out there.
Products out there that are gluten-free.
Yeah,
options?
yes. So just because, so she gets more gluten-free options because of this trendy thing. Now you could say like, oh, these people don't even know what gluten-free means. But the result is that my wife benefits from it. And I think my son, who's autistic, benefits from more attempts at putting autism explicitly into public discourse and specifically into kids' pop culture. I see it from the inside where there is a hesitance to do that. I worked at Nickelodeon for a long time, and nobody ever said anything explicitly about autism, but all kinds of representative and affinity groups, they were very mindful and risk averse. So if we pile on people who have imperfect representations of autism, then there is little incentive for people who are who are not invested in autism to create autistic characters. And I think if you want to get more autistic characters out there in the world, which I personally do, you're going to have to get some people who don't give a shit about autism to create them. Some will care, but they can't all. And so I think I just as a positive person also, I like to just focus on like, okay, the representation of Black Manta as an autistic character was terrible, but let's keep him autistic and just have the next person who creates this character keep them autistic and just do a better job of it. And that's sort of where I lean. So that's why I'm not so concerned
But
to
will
have
they?
Huck out there as autistic if it's not a great representation, because maybe the third miniseries they'll get it right.
And
I
I agree to that. So I think what we're looking at is the idea of awareness versus education. Is that while I think the awareness of it is absolutely great because it does bring an awareness to people like, oh wow, and it brings a curiosity, but it also brings incentives that people learn. But I guess I have to put it back into my little world is that, but then I have patients coming in that go, hey, I think I am, or they're going to other people and they're getting tested for something that they don't need to be tested, and they're being overcharged or being, taken for money for things. It's like, all right, wait a minute, where did this come from? Like, oh, I saw this, and it's just like it's kind of like the TikTok thing. Like, while it's informative, it's about being careful and the subtleties of it. I think for me, and that's where I always lean on the kind of like, let's just be careful. And I have some personal things with autism as well. I I don't know. It's just for me, it's like while making aware is good, but how we educate, not everybody's going to take that, and maybe issue 2 or 3 will be better and they'll be much more educative. But that's not always the case. Sometimes things get worse, and that I think that's where my fear is that will it get worse?
My way of thinking about that is that part of the ways it gets worse is the boxes that people get put into when there is negligible representation of their affinity group, right? So that if, again, to lean on autism, since we're talking about Huck, and because it's it's the only thing I can actually talk knowledgeably about. If we look at what was the singular representation of autism from about 1987 until 10 years ago or so, and it's Rain Man, and so anybody who had a child who was autistic, and they were talking with their friends who were parents of non-autistic kids, and they said, "Oh, my son's autistic," the response is, "Oh, what's his superpower?" And there's a presumption that every autistic person, first of all, is that particular flavor. They speak, they can become, groom themselves, they can live independently, they can hold a job, and they have a superpower. They're just socially awkward and have certain tics and things like that. And if I'm being honest, I feel like Dustin Hoffman's presentation in Rain Man was rational. That could have been a person, but because of the weight all around it, because it was the only real representation of autism that broke through to the popular mind, um, it was the only one, and it was the only one for decades, meaningfully. It wasn't actually the only one, but it was the only meaningful one for decades. So we need a volume game. Like my game is a volume game. Let's get hundreds of them out there and let the marketplace of ideas say, oh, these were embarrassing and that will not succeed, but these ones are good and they will survive. And then ultimately, I suspect that by and large, they will be presented as characters deserving of empathy. And that, I think, is what is missing among the elementary school kids who are lovely kids that I see around my son, who nonetheless don't quite know how to exercise that empathy, how to put the notion of somebody who is socially different from them in their 6, 7, 8-year-old brains. I think that's a challenge, and I think pop culture can do its part by trying. And I would rather have them stumble and fall sometimes, but have this volume game that ultimately has a modeling impact on the kids around my son, so that his experience in life can involve more empathy from the people around him while they still have the ability to grow and learn before they become into horrible 12-year-olds or whatever the age of horror starts, whatever junior high starts nowadays.
So that's I think there's merit to your argument and your strategy because first of all, I think it can work in the corporate superhero world because as soon as an element is part of a character, it can always be returned to that character. I think about Doom Patrol specifically, that after it was written and made super duper weird by Grant Morrison and Rachel Pollack, then John Byrne came in and kind of normalized it again and said, "Hey, no, we're not going to have it be so queer and strange." but then eventually Gerard Way came in and reintroduced a lot of that, and so things can re-weird and sort of return to the ideal form. And that progress isn't always a straight line. And I mean, we even saw it in terms of animation, where it was like at the end of Legend of Korra, there was two women longfully staring into each other's eyes before they walk into the distance, and then in She-Ra, they actually got to kiss. So sometimes it is the awkward stumbling point opens the door for authentic representation, um, and that's the dream.
Well, I'm trying to figure out a way to get Superman's mullet in there somehow, but I couldn't.
You got to send him to hell first.
I was like, who are we? Are we representing North Jersey hockey players with the mullet? And
That's a harder sell.
I couldn't quite get there. I couldn't I couldn't make that connection. I tried.
Give it like 5 years.
Yeah. So all of that separate from the autism, I thought that, and it sounds like you guys generally liked Huck. Mark Millar wrote some immediately magnetic characters in that book. I found Huck so charming immediately. The plot raced and was actually quite thin, I thought. But boy, I love the characters. And I think a lot of that was significantly helped by Rafael Albuquerque, whose other work I have found a little bit challenging. Like Letter 44. I remember that was my first introduction to Albuquerque.
I love Letter 44.
That's
brilliant.
A different
That's the
yes.
other Albuquerque.
That's a different artist. That's a different Albuquerque.
Oh, well, that explains why they look completely different.
They do, yeah. No, I thought when I started reading Letter
they don't
44,
actually spell Albuquerque the same either.
Really?
One of them has an R and one of them doesn't.
I thought this Albuquerque was going to be the artist in Letter 44, and so I was also a little bit jarred, but different guy.
Yeah, well, this had more of a Snow White feel, and it definitely enhanced, I think, the fairy tale aspect of the story that was being told. I'm glad they didn't linger too much on the outing. I didn't love it. I was really mad at that woman for outing him, but he had a different story that he wanted to tell. That was the catalyst for him finding his people. It was a little weird that what Huck wanted to feel was to belong, when it seemed like he felt he couldn't have been more embraced by his community until he got outed. That community loved him and protected him. And it was a little sad to hear that this character did not feel like he belonged, because to me, he seemed like he really belonged.
Let me jump in and push back on that, because because that's a common thing among the autistic people I know. It's one thing to be loved and cherished, and it's another thing for the people around you to value the things that make you you, rather than feeling like they need to protect you because of the things that make you you. And you feel belonging more when so the fact that he can use his powers even more has the potential to bring him way more belonging than just people who protect his privacy, because there's a certain level of protecting you that also feels like telling you that you need protection. If that makes sense.
I think it does make sense. I think actually it's a weakness in the writing. I think it's an inconsistency that is not quite resolved. I think he just wrote that in because it felt right in that moment, but that if you look broadly at the work, it doesn't quite fit, because Tad, ultimately, if you take the first 6 issues and the 3 that we have from the second cycle as one piece, the second book is about finding his family, and that's what gives him a sense of belonging.
Well,
right.
This is where I should jump in really quick and say that I wasn't defending the writing. I was only speaking to the idea that you can be in a community that protects you and loves you and still not feel that belonging.
Totally agree with you. It's just that the resolution to it was find my mom and then find more, this family members I've never met.
The writing itself, I'm not I'm not at all interested in arguing the quality of how they dealt with that. I was only on the specific point of, you can be in a place where you're loved a lot and not quite feel like you belong.
And I totally believe,
That can also be trauma.
I could see that. I could definitely see that with him. Well, I also wonder now if there was a certain amount of his do a good deed a day that started out as a way for his small world to accept him, I wonder if internally, if how much he might wonder that, oh, if he didn't do this, would they still treat him the same?
Well, that's interesting. The origin of that one good deed a day,
Yeah.
I think they attributed that to somebody in the second series,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
I think they did it in
Forget.
Was
It
it the
might have
first
been the
one?
first one. Let
I
me
You might be right.
see.
Yeah, I think they said, and I'm trying to remember. I don't have it in front of me. Someone started that for him, or if I remember correctly. I
Yeah,
could be
let's
Yeah.
see.
I do have mine in front of me, but I also have my dinner in front of me. Yeah, but I
You don't
agree.
want
Like,
to get your dinner all over your comic book?
no, not this guy.
I do have it in
yeah.
front of me. I'll be on the lookout for it.
Okay, great.
Lee will find it.
I agree that like I did not feel that he seemed like he was being abused by his town.
No.
I felt that having a task, can make somebody, have a little more certainty in their lives. And I think that kind of structure can be helpful to somebody, especially with somebody who's got these gifts and maybe no place to put them. So if you give him, a goal or even just like a hook, I mean, that's really all it is a hook.
Yeah.
That can emotionally give you a place to put that energy.
So at least in the first issue, all they say is they raise that boy to do a good deed every day, and that's exactly how he lives his life. One line.
I think
All right.
that's what
So
my head
that's
said.
probably
told him.
his parents,
Yeah.
and we don't get the specifics of the why. So it could just be like, I mean, because there's a lot of, I mean, you don't require the need to be to fit in to have somebody say, oh, you should do a good deed every day.
Mhm.
But I do get the feeling that for Huck, there is an element that he feels like that's what he contributes. That's what he needs to do to be able to fit in. And just looking at some of the good deeds that he comes up with because of that,
Mhm.
I think it's sometimes played that he's slow and that's why he's coming up with these silly good deeds.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I think that's true. I think that it's as much he's in this small town and like there are only so many big things you can do. So if you're trying to do
Chad,
a good deed every
he
day,
did see stuff on the news. Like, didn't he fly over to
Eventually.
oh yeah,
Afghanistan
no, and
Yeah,
those are the
well, that
days
was
that
Harambe
he seemed
girls
to
and all that
feel the
stuff?
best
Yeah.
was when he got to run off and do that big thing. I mean, I
And
think that's one of the reasons that Huck isn't as upset that he's been outed.
which that was actually a moment
Does that make sense?
until the phrase outed was used, I actually kind of laughed at that narrative beat where they say, oh, I hope she realizes what she's done, or she's sorry for what she's done, and she's crying at a window, and in my head I'm like, she connected him to people who need actual help, people with missing family members. Like, how is that not a good thing? And I recognize, okay, yeah, breaking the secret, all those, classic tropes, narrative way. But it was just one of those moments that just felt so contrived. Of, oh, she has to be sad here. That's the type of story this is.
Did Huck
Just glad they didn't linger.
did he understand the ramifications though, what all that meant? Did they really like delve into that?
Well, tell me if I'm wrong. Wasn't she talking with somebody on a couch and they were like, "Oh, imagine like the money we could get from
Yeah.
out."
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
There's ulterior motives, yeah.
Right.
Well,
I just-
and for his ability to help other people, you also run into more people that will try to exploit him, more people that might not like what he does and will try to stop him or put him in danger. I mean, there's
Isn't that the Rain Man story? Is that he exploited his brother, his
yeah.
casino? Like that's the,
Yeah.
Well-
kind of reminiscent of that.
And that's when the politicians reached out to him and got him involved in their political campaign, and he's lifting couches with them on it. Like,
Right.
That Captain America, and like he's got some good reference, like metaphors. I thought that was
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. I generally found the story unsatisfying. It seemed to go through pretty stereotypical arcs and or common, not stereotypical, but Senate fare that I've seen before a million times. And this hit all those notes. He did it with a really lovely character. So I enjoyed
Would you say a
seeing.
good guy?
Yeah, he seemed like a nice guy. Like I don't know. And I, if I'm being genuinely honest, I remember Mark Millar from Heaven's Gate, I think it was called, or Heaven's Ladder or something like that, or whatever Paradise Lost or something. I don't know. It was when they introduced Azrael in the JLA back a million years ago.
Okay.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Oh, he did write
because
some
he
of that.
was,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, he was introduced, I believe, to American comics by as a Grant Morrison's, acolyte. And so that's how I knew who he was. And then he broke off and he did his own thing. And I was sort of half aware that he was part of that movement of deconstructing superheroes and the hyper-violent stuff. And then, my experience of that again was Joe Kelly's response to it with What's So Funny About Truth, Love, and the American Way, or whatever that
Yeah.
thing was called. And so I'm not keyed into, my understanding is that he has done some terrible things. I don't
Oh
mean to
yeah.
giggle at his terrible things. I'm
Oh no,
giggling at the
it's
fact
good.
that I am unaware of it.
You're better
But
off for it.
but I'm aware of it in any event. And so it's interesting that like this guy who I have known primarily to be creating characters who are distanced, and emotionally unavailable or whatever. Um, and significantly damaged to have created this like pure character that I really enjoy seeing, even if he's going to be doing it in a bland plot.
Mhm.
But the other thing I've liked about the book too is the interesting expression of superpowers. That his superpowers that he can find things. Now he's got super speed and strength and stuff like that, but he can find things. And some of the other people have sort of his mom, I guess, has a persuasive power, and there are other people who have different unusual powers that you don't see as often, which I think is kind of fun. Like, it's like I listened to a interview with Rob Liefeld the other day, and somebody made the comment that when he was naming his titles, Youngblood and whatnot, that they had thought all the good superhero names were taken, and then all of a sudden Rob Liefeld came up with all these awesome, superhero titles and names and team names and stuff. And I feel like somehow in Huck I'm seeing
And,
new
and they all
superpowers.
forgot Dogman for another 10 years.
I know, right? I heard your podcast talking about how could we have missed that.
Didn't Millar?
And so I know I like seeing those superpowers, the new superpowers.
Mark Millar wrote Kick-Ass, didn't he?
Yep.
He did.
That
Yep.
sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He wrote Kick-Ass. He wrote
Didn't he do one of the
Kingsman.
Ultimates,
Oh,
the
he
Avengers
did
things?
the Ultimate.
Yeah, he did Ultimates.
Yeah, that was the one that he didn't
The
start the Ultimate
Authority?
Universe. Yeah, well,
Yeah, he
Did he
did
do
the
the Authority?
second,
He did the
second
Authority as
year
well.
of Authority.
Yeah, he was the
Yeah.
second
He
second
did
guy to do
the
the
Secret
Authority.
History of Jenny Sparks.
Huh?
The Secret
Oh, maybe.
History of Jenny Sparks.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I like that. I thought that was good.
Yeah, no, he's done a number of things that I've liked. He's a weird industry in the like
the storylines may not be.
yeah.
He does
Yeah.
work with a lot of very talented artists, and yeah.
Yeah, and some of them are even people that I know. So like he can't treat everybody badly because I know them well enough to know who they're willing to work for and who they're not.
Right.
So, again, I don't like getting into the gritties of he's not always been a great actor, but not in
There's worse.
yeah, there are worse and he's thoroughly in the arena of like there's legitimate conversation to be had about how bad what he did was. Does that make sense?
Now I have to dive into it. I have no
Well,
idea.
it's most of it's more business stuff than
Mhm.
personal stuff.
Yeah, and some of it's like political views, but
Right.
it's not. Yeah,
Right.
it's I haven't
It's
heard
generally
any.
not he's been bad to people.
Yeah.
It's
Is it accessible?
he has
that I could find?
yeah, it should be.
Okay. Yeah,
I mean, he and Grant Morrison had a major falling out, and I'm not certain that he's willing to properly gender Morrison.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's a good point. But their fallout was a good while before that. I think it was over Morrison ghostwriting some of Millar's issues on Authority and Ultimate X-Men.
Not getting credit.
books. Not getting
Right.
credit, literally ghostwriting them.
not getting paid what he was supposed to get paid.
Yeah,
That sort
those sorts
of
of things.
thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So there's definitely business issues, but we run into those all over the place.
How much of a departure from Millar's previous work is Huck? Because to me, it's very different, but I only have a small sampling of his work.
In
He's
regards to
written
story,
some. Well, Authority, yes. So it's different from stuff like Kick-Ass, his edgier side, but it's actually
Well, except that on the
similar.
flip side, I mean, who is Kick-Ass? He's a
Yeah,
teenage.
because I thought it was similar. I thought Kick-Ass
Well,
was.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah, I
actually
think
put
there's
them
a
together.
definite through line from like Authority into Kingsman, Kick-Ass, and this. So it's definitely something that he's explored before, which is like let's take this average person who just has um good intentions and throw them into a world that they're not ready for, that doesn't treat good people well. He definitely has a very cynical worldview.
yeah, I was going to mention the times he's written Superman. Apparently, he wrote an Adventures of Superman series that was more for younger readers, and Superman Red
Yeah.
Sun is similarly, kind of optimistic. A lot of Russia in that one.
All right.
I think
But
I think we see the recurring themes in his writing. Personally, I
Yeah.
think his character development is good. And I
it's
think
well,
his themes are-
Huck is good. I'll agree to Huck being good. I guess I think that see the what breaks for me of the through line between Kick-Ass and Huck is that whereas I see Huck as, being good and a simple guy, whereas Kick-Ass might eventually become a hero, he definitely doesn't start off that way, and I think he's more played as naive, at least in the 2 volumes of Kick-Ass I've read, of being that like tragically hopeful person in a cynical world as opposed to the prevailing hopeful person in a cynical world.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. I just think that Millar's characters they're well crafted. I just think his themes are very reminiscent of other stories I've already read.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that Millar falls squarely into the category of when he took over Authority, I loved his work, or his next chapter on Authority, so I started following him a little bit. I pretty quickly decided that he never did anything that I like regretted reading, but he also didn't like do stuff that I was automatically gonna go, oh, this was great, and have the next issue at the top of my pack or top of my pile when it came out next. So now I've kind of fallen into if he writes a book that looks really great, I'll try it out. Or if I start hearing other people say, oh, I really loved this, I'll try it out. And other than that, I think he's a good craftsman. I'm not surprised that he landed the Netflix deal, because what he can do is what Dr. Ramos was just saying, is like craft old ideas into a really good story that also generally is pretty filmable.
Yep.
You know.
The back matter of Huck actually talked about how they had a Hollywood deal going for it. Now, I don't know if
Right.
I don't, doesn't seem to me that anything occurred from that, unless that was, wrapped up in his overall deal, which would have captured everything. But he definitely was trying to say, like, who should play Huck? And
Right.
Channing Tatum, I think, was the consensus favorite.
They want Channing for everything.
Yeah.
You could do worse than Channing Tatum.
Or Pedro Pascal. Yeah,
Much better.
as for me, again, I think this is. I was actually just looking at my collection. I think I maybe have read. This is my first read of Mark Millar, and I knew like he did Kick-Ass, so I kind of fall in that same boat right now. Like I like Huck, a big fan of it, but I'm not really drawn unless like again Ramos or Tad or someone else sort of recommends some good works from Millar. I mean, I'm definitely on like a Lemire and Tom King phase right now, but I would definitely be interested in reading more Millar, but I'm not really enraptured yet, I would say.
I mean, I will. This
That's a
is
fun
this is.
proposal, by the way. Mark Huck, as written by Jeff Lemire.
Oh, that would be
I'd
fun.
read that. That'd
Yeah,
be really
I would
good.
totally read that.
Yeah.
But actually, I was going to say Mark Millar did pull off something that I've never ever seen before, which is I actually saw the Kingsman movie before I read the comic. and when I went back and read the comic, liked the movie better. And it wasn't that I disliked the comic. I didn't think it was a bad comic. I just thought the movie was better. And like, I cannot think of another time where I like flat out think the movie is better than the comic that it was based on. Sometimes
Wow.
as good and different, but like um
Mystery Man? Maybe Mystery Man.
I
Ooh,
haven't
I
actually
love
read the
Mystery
Mystery
Man.
Man comics, so I can't
Is that
I
a good
can't
pull?
no.
I love the movie, but yeah, I haven't read the comics either.
I haven't read the comics, so I'll have to go
Don't read
try
the
that,
comic, but
find out.
the movie was much better.
Was it?
Yes.
So, but yeah.
Sometimes that happens.
So, does anybody have a specific idea for next month? Those of you with access to the spreadsheet, which I think is most of you, I have been adding to it all through our talking.
Zoe Thorogood.
Well, I mean, we kind of we
Did you already do
already
that?
did our big discussion of It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth back in I think December.
A while ago, yeah.
When she was raising money for various suicide prevention groups. Um, but we haven't done the impending blindness. We haven't done her hack slash. We could be fun and do her hack slash. Um,
I came across her because my daughter got the idea that she wanted to do a panel at a Comic-Con that was about disabled writers of comic books, disabled creators of comic books. And
okay.
so in doing my research to find out like, oh, I didn't know the answer, like which creators of comic books are disabled in one way or the other. I knew about autistic creators, but I didn't know about anybody else. And so I started doing some research, found a couple of quite interesting books. I came across The Impending Blindness of Billy Scott through that and had never heard of it before. And I must have skipped your episode, Tad, of
So good.
22 panels. But I
You
came
were
to it
invited
through
to be
that.
on that episode, man.
I hadn't read it then. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
read the book by then. And I read Impending Blindness and
Well,
I read Center of the Earth,
yeah,
and they were
it was
both
it
so,
wasn't
so
the
good.
Center of the Earth is the one that yeah. I'm looking forward to her next book. She's been putting stuff up on Instagram a lot. I think she's looking forward to being done with that and maybe doing something that's a little less about grief for a while. Um,
Good grief.
but I mean, I don't know if you picked up in your research. She lost her brother last year.
No, I did not.
That's what happened is her brother took his own life and she donated the all proceeds from sales of um It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth from like I think August through the end of the year went to various suicide prevention charities. So we were plugging the hell out of that book all of the end of last year. Where were you, man? I kept saying hi to you on podcasts. Were you listening
Listen
at
to it,
double
but
speed again?
I always listen at double speed.
You sound
The
like
only
a
way I can
double
get through.
speed listener.
I'm pretty East Coast.
How about since Jeff Lemire was mentioned, Royal City or Underwater Welder?
I
Underwater
could
Welder
do
is so good.
I
They're
could
both
do
so
either
good.
one of those.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite reads. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
think I've read.
I was a fan of Lemire, so I'm cool.
Yeah. Do we have a specific? Do we want to go underwater or royal?
I'm okay with any of it except Moon Knight.
His Moon Knight was also good, but I don't think it's as right for the show.
Yeah.
I think Underwater Welder. I would lean towards Underwater Welder just as I think of the two, because it was such an unusual story. His JSA right now is quite good and surprisingly, I mean, it's like the most recent issue was excellent.
I haven't read his JSA yet, so I'm going to have to go.
It
Yeah, I
took a
gotta
minute
pick that up
to
now. Thanks,
took a minute
Chris.
to come together, but yeah,
So
well, you
so
got to read through a lot for this thing to make sense. And the earlier
that's
issues,
okay.
I was like,
I
I'm
have
with it because it's Lemire, but
I have DC Infinite. So, all right, for next month it will be Jeff Lemire's Underwater Welder. For Psychocomicology and Britt Payne, Ozzy. This has been the uh, 22 panels, Joy, Resistance, Hope, and Survival Book Club and Support Group. And we will see you after the next page.